Welcome to Cinemaslice, where we look at some excellent minor moments from the movies and do a little due diligence on just why they're so good. This time we're keeping an eye on the markets in Oliver Stone's 1980s classic Wall Street, because we think that it's the film that summarises that decade better than any other. We're also doing this in association with World Geekly News and their 80s Movie Challenge. Check out their website, links in the notes below, because any site that is doing a full rewatch of the X-Files gets our vote. I'm Mr. W, and I'm here to tell you that film, for lack of a better word, is good. Wall Street is a 1987 big business thriller directed by Oliver Stone, who incidentally was in the middle of quite a hot streak that other directors would kill for at that point. He'd made Platoon just the year before and followed Wall Street with Born on the 4th of July and JFK, rounding off a crazy run of success from 1986 to 1991. Stone was making films at pace, and he was managing to capture a moment, a zeitgeist of a more cynical mainstream audience in a pretty unique way for a studio filmmaker. In Wall Street, he transferred his dual father figures motif from Platoon and made the film that managed to perfectly crystallise the look and feel of the decade that made greed not just good, but fashionable. To set the scene, in the 1980s, populist right-wing governments in the West tried to draw back the Iron Curtain and then set up a McDonald's behind it. The underlying motive for ending the war, the Cold War that is, wasn't the prospect of peace, it was the chance to make money. The financial revolution in deregulated markets caused an explosion in the world of money. In plain terms, money went from being the means to being the end, and Wall Street is a film that uses its production design, camera work and lighting to capture an aesthetic of unrestrained greed. Wait, what do I mean by that term production design? That's the key thing here. It's what we're looking at today, and it's a job that you might have seen in the credits of films. In this case, it's the job of Stephen Hendrickson, and we are going to get to him later, but a production designer is responsible for the design of the sets, the props, the costumes, the makeup, and in the case of Wall Street, hair that's so slick it looks like it would survive re-entry. I'll explain why all that matters after a quick plea to all the people who've watched our last couple of videos who aren't subscribers yet. Yes, lots of you actually exist. Please chuck us a like, a subscribe, and leave a comment telling us some of that sweet, sweet insider information.
You got me.
So then, why Wall Street? It could be that the film isn't remembered particularly well. Mostly, people remember the antagonist, Gordon Gekko, played with devilishly handsome glee by Michael Douglas, rattled on about greed, and he wore the hell out of some very expensive suits.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right.
They also remember some of the crackling one-liners that fly around the office.
30 seconds after the Challenger blew up, he's on the phone selling NASA stock short.
It's a dog. Lunch? Oh, you gotta be kidding. Lunch is for wimps. That's a dog with different fleas.
Stock's going to Pluto, man.
Jesus Christ. If this guy owned a funeral parlor, no one would die.
Churn 'em and burn 'em.
Okay. All right, Christmas is over.
But having rewatched the film, there's so much more to it. And the thing that struck me was the design of the film is pretty much perfect. It captures not only the look of that era, but it also captures the ethic, the moral heart of the story that Oliver Stone was trying to tell. Stone was primarily a screenwriter before he moved into directing. His scripts are frequently detailed, but Wall Street was especially clear on how the locations needed to look, especially the one we're going to talk about. The place that, at the start of the film, we aren't even allowed into. We just get a glimpse of a door shutting in our face, just to let us know that we aren't part of that exclusive club just yet. Fairly soon into the film though, our beautiful naive hero, Bud Fox, gets his 5-minute meeting, and he's made to wait outside that office just by a Robert Burmelin painting of a burning $20 bill. This is our first real look at some of the artwork in the film, and it's a massive burning piece of money. I wouldn't accuse Wall Street of being a subtle film. It's bold and brash, and the central motivating factor is that green stuff, money. Well, it certainly is to Bud at this point. And then we're in the office. The script calls for it to be hypermodern grey and black lacquer, as well as mentioning specific artists. This floor space is huge for a Manhattan office in comparison to every other one we see in the film. There are paintings dotted all over the wall. Picasso, Juan Miro, Dubuffet. There are glossy black slate walls, there's huge smoked glass windows, trophies, statues, world maps for domination, I guess, and burnished gold columns to match the door. It's a throne room, a gladiatorial arena, and the lion's den all at once. Let's concentrate on just one painting in this room then, the one that Gekko specifically refers to during the course of the script. This is a Juan Miro painting. It's an abstract landscape oil on canvas, and it was painted in 1974.
This painting here, I bought it 10 years ago for $60,000. I could sell it today for $600.
Gordon is a little off on the pricing. We managed to track its last public appearance where it sold for £350,000, way back in 2001 at Christie's. So, what? Gordon likes art? No. No, it appears that Gordon doesn't care about art in the conventional sense. In his own words, he's not a collector. He's an owner.
I create nothing. I own.
So this assembly of pictures, they're meaningless to him, and there's no unifying theme. There's nothing about the paintings in Gordon's office or his beach house that speaks to anything about his character. There's no hidden depth to be revealed. They're not representative. Or are they? I suppose there is one thing that ties all these pictures together. They're expensive. This is part one of the aesthetic of greed. You own things just to own them. They're trophies, wholly empty status symbols. Modern art, which Gecko seems to favour, appeals to him even more, because it frequently doesn't have a really obvious historical context. It just needs to exist and be worth money. I doubt Gordon is a specific fan of Picasso's neoclassicist period, for example. He just really likes the expensive ones as long as they're on his wall. Throughout the film, the only art commentary is offered by Darian, Daryl Hannah's character, who floats ineffectually throughout the film, eventually siding with Gordon for, surprise surprise, financial reasons. So despite her protestations and pontifications about art, she eventually cares about the money a whole hell of a lot more.
Don't cross Gordon. He'll crush you.
Production designer Stephen Hendrickson confirmed that Oliver Stone personally vetted and approved almost everything in Gecko's office and, later, his beach house. All the items were purchased, rented, borrowed specifically from New York's high-end design galleries. You can see that in the credits. There's a whole list of where they borrowed them from. Gordon's chair was purchased from the exclusive Pace Gallery and dyed oxblood red in keeping with his hunter-killer instincts. See those fancy lamps on his desk? They're lighter layer quartz halogen lamps, not even available to the public at the time the film was released. All of this was done to position Gordon Gekko as not just being a man of the moment, but to be ahead of the times. Contrast this to every other office that you see in the film from an established figure, and they have all the trappings of old money, dark wood furnishings and traditional artworks if there are any. And all this description of the office is before we get to the man himself. This is the archetype of the predatory businessman. Slick hair, gold jewellery, braces, collars and cuffs, ludicrously expensive suits, and a weird, ageless look. Seriously, Michael Douglas was 43 when he made this film, but you'd be hard pushed to say what his age was supposed to be. Within 5 years, at the age of 47, he was, inexplicably, Hollywood's go-to guy for erotic thrillers, and 3 years prior, he'd been a passable Indiana Jones variation in Romancing the Stone. But it's the role of the businessman that he's always returned to. Michael Douglas just looks at his best in a suit. And what about that hair? Smooth, oily, streamlined, efficient, but he looks almost hawkish in the traditional sense of the word. So here he is, like a hawk, prowling through his office, and the verbal imagery is quite striking.
They're analysts, they don't know preferred stock from livestock, all right? So you wait till it heads south, then we raise sperm count on the deal, okay? Looks as good as on paper. We're in the kill zone, pal. We're lock and load. This turkey is totally brain dead. Ollie, I want every orifice in his fucking body flowing red.
We got close to 500,000 shares in the bag.
Huh? The Terminator. Rip their fucking throats out. Stuff them in your garbage compactor.
So remember, Gekko doesn't collect, he owns. In the modern use of the word, that means to defeat or humiliate your opponent. That's exactly what Gekko does, and his approach to business is not friendly competition, it's war. Later in the film, he barters with a business rival in front of his collection of firearms, having boasted about how rare they are. As much of a cliche as it's become now, this is the film that introduced the idea of the businessman that reads Sun Tzu.
If equally matched, fight. And if not, split. Reevaluate.
He's learning, huh?
That treats each day as a Darwinian exercise in culling the weak. Look, chaps, he even has a painting of trophy heads in his beach house. Not subtle. So what? What does all of that mean? Well, surprisingly, I don't think it means that Oliver Stone hates capitalism. Nor do I. I have an iPhone, it's amazing. But Oliver Stone, whose father was a stockbroker, saw something unhealthy about the rapacious greed, the whole leverage buyout culture, and the new, more aggressive business attitudes in the 1980s. So he separates Gecko. He takes this symbol of a dangerous, emergent greed, and he separates it out from all the others. He looks different. To Bud, he is seductive. He's a vision of progress. But, like Bud's ridiculous art table and the fake exposed brickwork that he has in his fancy new apartment, there's nothing underneath it. It's almost completely functionless. It is a form of greed that has become so distant from serving a purpose in the real world that he's just a leech, a vampire. There's even something faintly satanic about the way Gecko is framed at points in the film, especially when he's leading our Charlie, Bud Fox, into some of his seedier business practices. So, like Gordon himself says, he owns. But as we understand, he doesn't appreciate. In Wall Street, the aesthetics and the ethics mesh perfectly. Actually, scrap all that. I've been trying to say that these characters are projected through their surroundings and clothing as much as through their actions and words, and that this makes the film the most indicative of the 1980s, but really, I should have just said, look at this ridiculous sushi making machine, is there anything more 80s? No? Case closed. I mean, seriously, look at that kitchen. Now, I'm quite proud of myself. I've managed to make it through the entire video, and I've not perved at any of the men. Oh, hello, Charlie. Oh my. Cinemaslice is written and narrated by me, Mr. W, but it's edited and given the preferred stock treatment by Charlie Travers. I had a go at doing some of the editing again, so you can blame me if you don't like it. If you want to get in touch with either of us, then look at the information under this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We're on the lookout for suggestions for videos or any questions you've got about the videos we've made. Just don't send us any dogs, with or without fleas. Also, it would be great if you tweeted, Instagrammed, or just told people about this video to see if they might like it. We'll see you next time.